Hello everyone and thanks for listening to the Sung's Garage podcast. Today we're joined with Formula Drift driver, racer and all-round nice guy Ken Gushi. We discuss what it takes to be a Formula Drift driver, how you can start drifting on a budget, and then we asked him the questions you gave us on our social sites. Make sure you find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube under Sung's Garage and leave a positive review on this podcast if you enjoy it. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can listen to the podcast on your favourite podcast supplier like iTunes, Spotify and even Stitcher. Follow Sung at SungKangster and me at AlexDoesCars. Enjoy the show.
Excuse us, we're just moving in, but we're figuring it all out, but welcome to our first show. So we're honored to have you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Alex and I have partnered up officially, and he's a co-host for sungsgarage.com, and he's just a wonderful, kind of perspective and lens to, have on the show, and the questions he has are so fresh and positive. So really glad to join forces with Mr. Harrington here.
I'm very happy. It's my dream right now. I'm living the dream. No, it's great. Meeting so many people. Hearing their stories. It's great, and being able to share the stories with. I was saying to Ken earlier that we put out the question on your Facebook page. What do people want to ask Ken? And we just had so many people asking really nice, honest, good questions. Yeah. It feels great to be able to communicate that to them. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling.
Well, I think it's great that you guys have built a foundation and a platform like Sung's Garage to be able to kind of portray and build a channel where we can, connect people like Sung and myself with everyone else and have that sort of communication and get whatever they want to know out there. I think it's great what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
But first question I have is, who gives you hairstyle tips? And where is this hairstyle inspired from? Is this a manga inspiration, or is it
No. So, funny enough, I have naturally curly hair, like super natural. I was born with it, and as a kid growing up, I hated the curly hair, so I would always put hair products in my hair to sort of tame it down or, cut it short so it doesn't go like fluff all over the place. And it wasn't until last year where I realized, okay, like curly hair is actually kind of cool. Like I'm just going to let it grow out. And then I used, the whole COVID-19 lockdown as an excuse to not cut my hair and just to see what it would do. And now I just stopped completely using any sort of hair products and let my natural curl go. So trying to make my mama proud of what she's created.
So it's kind of called a J-fro, a Japanese
It is,
fro,
yeah.
if you will, huh? A J-fro. I like it. It's pretty cool, man. I like it, dude. It's nice. It's very fitting.
Yeah, I tried that, and then so I just let my hair grow out. I'm not seeing anyone. I'm going to be inside doing work on the computer, and then it turns out that my fiance's ordered some clippers in, and I get a box, and it's just some clippers. I'm like, that's a hint, isn't it? It's a hint and a half. So
it just seems like I'm the only one that likes my hair, and everyone else is like, "What are you doing to yourself?" Hey, I'm gonna do me.
I like. How is it with a helmet? Have you tried it?
Yeah, if I take off my helmet, it looks just like this. So that's one good thing about this hair is it doesn't change. It's super consistent.
That's good. So,
that's cool,
so
man.
To everyone, to all of the listeners who haven't been following your career, how would you, like someone who's never heard of Formula Drift, or because I know you're not just a drifter, you do like all sorts of motorsport. How would you describe your career to someone who doesn't know you, to someone who's completely new to drifting? Go.
Mm-hmm. I mean, simply put, I'm a professional driver in the Formula Drift Championships in the USA. I grew up loving motorsports, rally. In fact, before I started competing in drifting, my father and I would do rally races. In fact, he was a avid motorsports fanatic as well, specifically with rally racing. So when I was about 10, 11, 12, we would go to these rally races, local rally races in California, because that's where I grew up. I grew up locally in Los Angeles, but he would take me with him to these races, and I would be in the passenger seat reading stage notes to him. So did that for a couple of years before I took over the steering wheel, and then he was my co-driver. In fact, there's a lot of stories I can go into, but without making it too long, that's where I started my motorsports career, was rally racing, and then I figured that's kind of too expensive. Drifting looks cooler. Let's try drifting. And 20 years later, I'm driving for a huge manufacturer, Toyota Racing, and still doing it, still loving what I do, and trying to just inspire up and coming drivers to pursue what they want to pursue, just follow their dreams and have fun. I guess the best advice I can give someone is to have fun, because I'm still having fun.
So for someone who wants to get into drifting, someone who's maybe, you hear a lot of drifters grow up, drifting and perfecting their skill in private car parks. We'll skip over that bit, but private car parks, and what would you recommend to someone who wants to get into drifting? Maybe let's say like early 20s, maybe even younger. What would like the three magic objectives be for them to get into Formula Drift?
So drifting is something that you can easily fall in love with. You can easily get hooked on it, attached to it, and it becomes very addicting. It's also something that can easily bring so much frustration, stress. If you get lost, you don't really know how to progress as a driver. But the best advice I can give someone is to find similar people that are just as passionate as you are about drifting, because those people who are passionate, they can only offer you the best advice. Just have fun, buy a cheap rear-wheel drive car, go to your local drifting events, because now pretty much across the nation, across the globe, as a matter of fact, there's drifting events everywhere, all over private car parks, circuits, tracks. Back when I started, we didn't have any of that. So like you said, we had to find these abandoned parking lots far away from the city, and try to practice doing donuts or whatnot. But times have changed. There's more available resources everywhere. You have people to talk to. You have social media where you can pretty much reach out to someone like me or the Forsberg of Formula Drift and DM them, asking them like, hey, I love what you guys do. How do I get there? And we're, for the most part, always willing to help kids like that, people like that out.
Yeah, I've joined you in the IS club, so I bought myself an IS 200, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna, so I was like, I'm gonna weld the diff. It's only a 2-litre straight six, but it'll do to learn, and it's only cheap. And I went onto a Facebook page, I can't remember what it was, but it was a drifting Facebook group, and I asked a question, and Chelsea Denova answered the question. And it just goes to show that you guys are so... It's like a modern way of doing motorsport and a modern way of doing business, that you can go into a Facebook group and you can ask a question and the pros are there to help you out. And it just completely blew my mind. And then you see, all of you are active in these communities, and it's amazing. And I think, someone learning, just go and ask questions, because you guys are there. It seems that you guys are just hanging around with us, with all of us common folk.
we just love drifting that much.
Yeah.
We want to get it out.
If one were to start drifting on a budget, what car would you recommend?
So if you were to ask me the same question, say 10, 15 years ago, I would easily say, just go pick up a cheap Nissan 240 SX or a Mazda RX-7, a Toyota, Corolla A86. Those days are long gone. Those cars are pretty much, doubled, tripled in price. A 1986 Corolla nowadays, that's clean, impossible to find. And if you do, easily north of $20,000 US. Back when I started, those cars were free, $500 for a clean one. 240s were $500. Yeah. But there's been a shift. So a lot of different types of rear-wheel drive cars have taken place. Ford Mustangs, Nissan 350Zs, BMW E36, E46, 328s, 325s. There's a lot of cars that are still available where you can find for relatively cheap. Miatas, for example. But yeah, I think those cars are typically what you want to search for nowadays if you want to get into drifting for cheap. Because when you're learning, you're going to go through mistakes, and you want to learn from your mistakes too. You want to, push yourself to get close to clipping points and the edge of the track, and you're going to break stuff. That's a given. If you're not breaking stuff, you're not pushing hard enough. So buy something cheap, affordable, and
let's get to specifics. Get the specifics. That's too general. Like if I was in the middle of nowhere
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I want to be like Ken, but I have $2,000 in the bank. What do I get to be like you? Safely, so I can get home, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you can
Come on.
pick up a BMW E36 for less than 1,500, just weld your diff for another, say, $200 at your local welder shop. Buy cheap tires, and there you go. That's a perfect beginning setup.
Beginning set. All
Yeah,
right.
rear-wheel drive with a welded diff, cheap tires, look for an empty, very far away abandoned parking lot,
And go for it.
and then call me.
What was
Call
your
me, and
first
I'll give you the
car?
best advice.
Blame you.
What was your first? Actually, no. Let's go through your car history. What was your very first car?
Woo. I mean, the very first car that I personally owned that I can call mine was a 1992 240SX. It was Champagne Coupe. I did the first SR20 swap when I was 13 in my dad's garage, and I can't even count how many cars I've been in since then, but that was my very first Gushi car, Ken Gushi car.
Wait, you did an engine swap at the age of 13?
I mean, of course, my dad helped me out, but yeah, I told him, this car needs more power. Dad, help me.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, what's your dad's history, Ken? A lot of people talk about your dad, and
Yeah.
you know, and you always kind of allude to, you know, what he taught you, but you know, I want to hear what his story is, like his origin and what he left behind, you know. And
Yeah.
gave to you.
So he and my mother, they had me when they were 19, so they were very young parents. But at the same time, he was always going to the local track in Okinawa, Japan. That's where I'm from, Okinawa. I was born there. But we moved here when I was 2 years old. Prior to moving here, he was, you know, part of the local Okinawan Gymkhana club. So they would do autocross events, and there's not much to do in Okinawa because it's a very, very tiny country or tiny island on the very southernmost part of Japan. So the best they had at the time was a huge lot. They would set up cones and do Gymkhana events. So that's where he started, was doing...
What's Gymkhana for people who don't know what that is? What's Gymkhana?
So Gymkhana is it's a motorsport event where they lay out cones. So there's no physical permanent track mark. They set up a track based on where they lay cones, and it's basically a time attack event. So the fastest car to clear that obstacle course is obviously the fastest driver, and that's a Gymkhana event or autocross event.
Autocross. Very similar. Okay, cool.
Nice. So,
And then from there, when part of the biggest reasons why we moved to the United States in the first place was because he wanted to pursue a career in racing, motorsports, specifically rally racing, and the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. So he was a huge fan of the Pikes Peak Hill Climb race in Colorado Springs, and he just wanted to follow that dream. So he moved his entire family here just to follow that, which I think was pretty absurd and crazy. But now that I look back, I'm glad he did that, because if it wasn't for that, obviously I wouldn't be where I am today. So that's my dad. He's the one that said, I'm going to bring my family to America. I'm going to follow my dream. I'm going to go racing. I'm going to go up the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. And that was it. So that's my dad.
So he taught you how to drift too, then? Huh? He taught you everything in, like, the fundamentals of driving and racing. So you were in the driver's seat with him, riding shotgun since you were a baby, pretty much.
Yeah. So he had a repair shop too, and he worked at multiple repair shops before opening his own Gushi Auto Repair. But I would just follow him around. I mean, I was sort of like, you know, just holding on to his pants, just following him around the shop, watching what he was doing, like fixing the cars. Even at home, he would fix his old Datsun B110 Sunny in the garage, and I would be in my, you know, the kid's one-piece mechanic suit, pretending like I was helping him wrench. So, yeah, I grew up with that. I grew up just following him, watching him, and then when he would go racing, I would be there, and I picked up everything he did, the wrenching, the building cars, the driving. And you're right, he did teach me the fundamentals and a foundation to build up on that.
Nice. If you were to pass off one thing that your father taught you aside from the racing stuff and the mechanicals, what would that be? What would you share with like all the younger men out there and women that your pops gave to you?
Yeah, so he didn't necessarily voice this, but what he taught me was to just put 100% into everything I do or choose to do. And I think I've tried to follow that mentality. Is everything I do, I try to do it at 100. And that's one thing I would definitely want to pass on to not just my kids, but everyone that's asking for advice into how they can become a professional drifter. Not necessarily how do I start drifting, but those who ask like, how do I become a professional drifter and compete professionally, trying to make a living out of it. Just tell them, give it 100.
100%. Yep. No half-ass about it. Yep.
Yeah, go all in. So, I mean, you really followed in your dad's footsteps, because you did the Pikes Peak yourself, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So there's a crazy story behind the Pikes Peak hill climb too. The first time my father, and I did the hill climb, it was back in 2007. He had specifically built a car just to climb up the mountain, and but then he said, "Hey, Ken, why don't you do it for the first time?" So instead of him driving, he let me take the wheel on our very first Pikes Peak adventure.
Wow.
Unfortunately, 2 miles. So the race itself is a week long. Right? We have a couple days of setup, practice throughout the week, and then the main race day is on that Sunday. So we got through the whole week. We made some good time, got through practice, and then comes the main race day. We get the green flag to start the race. I'm going up, and 2 miles in, till this day, I don't know exactly what happened. I blame my dad for this. I think he misread a stage note. He's telling me he was screaming out, slow, slow, slow. So we ended up flying off the mountain, and then I totaled his brand new race car. And so the first year, we didn't even finish the race. It was DNF. Yeah. The very next year, he said, no, that's not going to stop me. So he ended up fixing that car and then went up for it on his own and ended up taking third place in the open class, which was crazy. It was mind-blowing. That was his first time racing up the mountain, and he took third place in a field of very talented, experienced drivers. So, wow. So
Talented.
he still does that.
Yeah.
Wow. What year was that?
That was 2008 when he went up again and took that podium.
Mm.
And then in 2011, I went back up as a hired driver from Lexus Racing. In their ISF CCSR, failed to take first place in our class by, it was very marginal. Went back up the following year in 2012 and ended up winning the class in the exhibition class with the same car. And then, so that was a great feeling. And then I went back up with my Gritty Performance race team in a drift-specific built competition car that was slightly modified just to make it up the hill. So it was still drift spec. It was a Scion FRS at the time, but it was still drift spec. And we said, hey, let's try to do Pikes Peak with a drift-specific competition car. And then with that car, we went through hell of a week blowing an engine, missing all of practice, didn't even qualify. So that set us up to start very last in the entire roster. So we had to wait 4 or 5 hours before we even lined up to the start line. And then the whole time we're just crossing our fingers like, oh, please, engine, just make it up the hill. Just make it up the hill. And so we get the green flag. Halfway through the run, I see all these warning lights on my dashboard saying, hey, oil temps are high, water temps are high. And I see smoke coming out of my hood, my bonnet, and I notice the power starting to go down. And I start thinking, what do I do? Like, this is, our first time as the Gritty Performance race team going up Pikes Peak. Do I stop here and say, I didn't want to blow the engine, or do I just say, nah, screw it, let's go all the way to the finish? So, of course, as a driver, I didn't want to stop there. I kept going, and we ended up taking third place in a time attack class, which was also crazy. By the time I crossed the finish line, the engine was toast. We lost that engine again. and I just coasted down with no engine power. But that was a pretty wild experience. And Sung, Kenji and the guys over at Gritty, and they're always 100% too into everything we do. So that showed tremendously in our results, and couldn't ask for a better finish to finish off that year in Pikes Peak.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm getting the idea that you love to destroy these cars. You love to completely pelt them, because I mean, I watched you in this year's Formula Drift, and you had an unlucky. You started with a slipped disc, right?
Yeah, so it wasn't a slip disc, but it was a very, very heavily strained back injury. I don't know how it happened anyway. Probably slept wrong or something, but yeah, I had a very, very painful first 2 rounds of Formula Drift.
2 rounds? I don't know how you do it. It's just, I mean, the G-forces, that must have hurt.
Well, funny enough, as I was driving, I would forget about it because there's so much adrenaline going, and you're just constantly trying to attack the guy in front of you. But as soon as the run's done, go back to the pit, I just couldn't move. So my teammates had to literally drag me out of the caged race car and just bucket seats, helmet, Hans device, and everything. So,
oh man,
yeah, that was.
Wow. How do you stay in shape? Like, what if you were to give advice to aspiring drivers? What is your workout regimen or routine to stay healthy during the season?
Yeah, I think as a race car driver, the most important thing is to keep your mental strength healthy, or your mental aspect of just performance healthy. So in that sense, I try to get on the simulator quite a bit. That way it keeps me mentally prepared for the next time I'm on an actual race car competing. Mm-hmm. The good thing about a simulator is that there's a reset button, and you can try different techniques because simulators nowadays have come so far advanced that they're super realistic. And I use a virtual reality or VR goggles to kind of immerse myself in that atmosphere. So everywhere I look, it's relative to where my eyes would actually be looking on the racetrack. So then I'll try different things on a simulator. Like, okay, if I just stay on throttle just a tad bit longer on this corner, what happens? Okay, just as expected, I went into the wall. You can't try that in real life. Otherwise, you'd be going through, bumpers like no other. So that way it keeps me mentally prepared, just calm, I guess. The best way to describe it is it helps me stay calm when I'm in a real car, because I've gone through the simulation hundreds and thousands of times. So that's the mental aspect. Physically, I enjoy running. I mean, I've done 5 full marathons already till this day, and I just love running. It gives me, obviously, physical movement to keep me in shape, but also at the same time, while you're running long distance, you have all that time to think about your next move, whether it be racing or life, your career choices or whatnot. So running is my go-to therapy.
Right. So when, like you just said, when you're racing, you're just completely flooded with adrenaline. And I've heard from other racing drivers that can last for, a couple of days afterwards. Does that happen with you? And if so, how do you just calm down? Do you just go run and just clear your head and just, get that adrenaline out of your body through running? Or is there something else you do?
Well, adrenaline is a good thing, I think. It gives you a tremendous boost in confidence. You feel like you can do anything. You can feel like you just stick the car right by the wall, and you can just scrape the whole rear bumper against the wall for the entire duration of that corner. And so I look for that adrenaline rush. I look for that snap in my head where I'm like, okay, now I can do it. For the most part, you're trying something new. You're on the racetrack, and you want to push it, but you don't want to push it too hard. But as soon as that adrenaline kicks in, you're like, okay, I know exactly what to do. So I kind of live off of that adrenaline.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't think it would be healthy to have that sort of rush, 24 hours a day. But yeah, you sort of look for a switch to turn on when things need to be turned on.
Yeah. So
how much of the I guess how much aspects of drifting or even Pikes Peak racing is mental opposed to physical to machine. So those three aspects, like, what is the most essential, like in order for you?
Mental, definitely mental. Mental. I would say as much as 75% mental.
Damn.
I think it's crucial that you have the right mindset to go into racing. I mean, racing is dangerous, right? That's for sure. Like that's a given. So you have to be prepared knowing, what could happen, and obviously have that mental strength to push yourself and the machinery beyond its limits. And then comes the physical. So physical, I would say, 20%, 22, 23%. Of course, the rest is going to be the machine and the car. But mental is extremely, extremely huge. And I think if you ask every other athlete, not just in racing, but athletes in general, they will say mental strength is crucial to their performance.
Mm. Yeah.
And so that's the question, it's like, I have that question. I've tried running, I've tried meditation, as I get older, I feel like the tools that I've used to keep my mind focused and positive, right? It gets harder and harder because things like this COVID-19 situation is insane. Like, how do we stay positive in situations like this? I mean, many of us are blessed, but some folks are not as blessed. And we can say and give lip service, yeah, be positive. It's all mental. But what tools can we provide? Like, what tools can you provide, Ken? Because I'd like to know, because I feel like I'm slipping sometimes, these days.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. If I had the answer to that, I think I would be in a better place, of course, within my performance, because I personally don't believe that I'm where I should be. I feel like I can get better and better. And of course, my results show that, like, I can obviously go higher and do better. So now what do I need? What tools do I need to take me to that next step or 4 or 5 steps higher? And like you said, it's mental is hard because you're always going to doubt yourself too if your performance isn't there. And every time after I have a bad weekend, I ask myself, like, what went wrong? Like, why did I not push myself? And I guess you start to get depressed. And as an athlete, I think that's one of the bigger challenges is to how to overcome that negativity and that negative energy. So
Depressed in what sense? That like down on yourself or feeling insecure? Because I can speak on that. Every time I go out for a job as an actor, like 99% of auditions and interviews I went out for, I did not get. And so how do you go home and recover, right? Like, how do you not feel less than, right? Because
right.
failure after failure, because you're going to lose more than you're going to win, Ken. That's the reality of being an athlete, right? So, I think, like, these talks are great, but I really, I want to offer these tools, man. And I'm looking for tools. Like, listening to you, I go, yeah, I should go revisit running because it was something that helped me refocus, and it was mind, body. It was like a reset every day. And it's something that I'm taking from this conversation. But other than that, like, what can you offer? Like, what tools do you use, man? What's your secret? What's the Gucci secret?
I think the key word you said was reset. And I try to find a way to reset my mindset and then learn and pick up from what I did or what I didn't do from the weekend and then apply that to obviously my next race. So I feel like as long as I continue to look for, those mistakes and to how to avoid it and to progress, slowly and surely, I think I will become a better driver, a better performer, better mentally. But the moment I feel like, whatever, I lost, so what? The moment I feel that sense of mentality is when I should reconsider my train of thought, my mentality, my mental state, and maybe perhaps even my career choice.
Because there's a difference between not giving a beep and being relaxed, right? Like, It's a big difference. Like, because, and that's a question that, I've been asked lately is because of the whole lockdown, there's a lot of street racing, a lot of illegal street racing, a lot of accidents and people getting hurt, and a lot of people passing away because of this stuff. And, this is something I'd like you to speak on is, somebody that does this for a living. When these kids go, I don't give a crap. I'm out there to kick some ass and take names. I mean, what is your take on this? I'm sure you're guilty of it. Like, look, we can't. It's hard for us to speak on it because it's like, I was asked to do like a PSA on this whole illegal street racing thing, and I go, coming from me, that makes no sense. Like, I'm going, hey guys, don't go fast, but I'm going to be in the movie going crazy, and even coming from you, it's hard. What?
It is, but I feel like, I've been given the opportunity to be the messenger into telling people who want to, say like, oh, I don't have money to go to the track. Well, I'm like, well, there's affordable ways to do things the right way. And of course, if you want to get better as a driver, there's no better place to push the limits than a safe racetrack to do so, where there's no mountains to fall off of. There's no, innocent bystanders to run over, especially watching these, what do they call them, the street takeovers where they completely block an intersection. They do donuts. So last year, I got stuck in one of those. I was just driving to the supermarket from my house and literally a block away.
Sure you did. You got stuck in one of those.
You didn't organize it.
To be a no.
I mean, if I was in my IS 300, maybe I would have liked it. I was in my Highlander, and then they block off the street. I'm like, what is going on? There's people just rushing the intersection, and this was planned. It had to have been planned because there's hundreds of kids just rushing from all four corners. And then next thing I know, I hear tire screeching, smoke going up, and I look out my window, and there's all these kids hanging out of the windows doing donuts. I'm like, oh my God, this is absurd. And then you see the same types of crowds on social media, like running each other over, like smacking them. There's bodies flying in the air. There's cars getting dented, and there's innocent people just getting run over and, killed. So, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Irwindale Speedway, actually, which is a local track of mine, tried to do this thing where they would let people come into their parking lot and do something similar. Like if they wanted to do like a takeover style, just like let it loose, burn some tire, do some donuts. They provided a safe place to do so. That didn't last too long. I mean, I don't know why it didn't, but people just didn't want to do that. I don't think they wanted to necessarily practice how to do donuts. They just wanted to cause a ruckus.
Yeah.
So when someone like you sees dudes do that, do you go, oh, that's cool? That's dope stuff? Because look, it obviously it's entertaining, and that's why people are doing it. That's why it's on YouTube and social media. But it's easy to say stop it because it's killing people. But I think you got to really speak on it. Like I look at it and I go, yeah, man, I want to do that stuff. And I guess when I was younger, I would partake and be kind of stupid. But then I look at them now and I go, there's nothing cool about it, man. Like I almost look at it and go, wow, it's like littering. It's like people throwing garbage on the ground and you're going, why are you doing that? That's the way I look at it. And it's not cool. It's not even cool anymore because we've seen it so much, right?
Right. And I mean, I'm sort of numb to that too, right? Because I've grown up drifting and sliding cars around, so just seeing people doing donuts is kind of like, okay, whatever. Not just that, but they wrecked my neighborhood. The intersection is just completely wrecked.
Yeah.
So that's like, oh, like what happened to my neighborhood? But no, like I really I just wish I can find a way to just show them like, hey man, there's cooler things to do on the track than to just overtake the intersection and do donuts and waste your tires, because tires aren't cheap. Let's be honest. So if I can show them like, hey, look, this is how to do a proper drift. Let me show you how to do like a spin turn, J turn 180, a reverse 180 or whatever it could be. Then I think they might be like, oh my God, this is way more fun than just doing a street takeover. And who knows, you might build a pro drifter out of one of those kids. Like you never know. But if we can give them an opportunity to, just be better people and better humans and have more fun doing the same things, but on a higher level in a more safe spot, then why not? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think
don't,
that's why drifting has become so popular. I think it's the fastest growing motorsport at the moment. It's something crazy, but I think because it's not actually racing, it's not who can go fastest. It's who can control the car and who's got the balls to control the car. I think a lot of people, when they street race and when they do things like that, they're partly showing off. They want that adrenaline rush. I think drifting gives them that, and I think that's why drifting becomes so popular, because it's so, I think what's it called? The line to get into that is quite low. Like you said, you can go to your local, near me, there's like Bring What You Drift, and it's a completely safe way to do it in a controlled environment, and it's really cheap to do. Obviously you've got to buy the car and the tyres, but it's really cheap to do. And the fact that drifting, it gives you that kind of stuntman idea,
yeah.
the kind of stuntman feeling. I think, what do you think? Do you think people should get into drifting, or do you think they should focus on something like rally or specific racing first? If they wanted to get into motorsport, let's say, what do you think is that kind of, what angle should they go in first to learn the craft?
Well, I think there's, different strokes for different folks, right? I love drifting. I'm absolutely passionate about it. I still feel the same adrenaline today behind the steering wheel than when I did when I first started drifting. It's just so much fun. Like, I can never get away from it. It's just so much fun. I love it. I love it so much. So I'm going to obviously tell you, hey, let's just go drifting. You don't want to go race. Let's just go drifting, because it's just so much fun. And not just that, but the community behind drifting is so cool too. We're always, looking out for each other, helping each other out. If they need a part, we'll help them out. If they're working on the car, you want to work on their car too, because you want them to go drifting.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it is. Like, right now here at my shop, like one of my co-owners or co-buddies, he's building a GS300, and I think I've worked on that car more than he has, because I want him to hurry up and finish the car so we can all go drifting. So
Yeah.
it's just so much fun, and if you can build that same passion starting into it, and, for those who ask, like, okay, how do I get into drifting? I say, easy. Look for someone like me. Look for someone that's super passionate about it, because they can offer a lot. They can offer all the knowledge. They can offer, obviously, the help, because I just want to finish the car for them so they can go with us.
Yeah. So talking
You're
of
a rare
cars,
breed. You're a rare breed, Ken.
Yeah.
Very few people are willing to share that knowledge.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're right.
I think I'm just crazy about drifting.
That's great. So talking of cars, what have you got going on at the moment? You've got the Supra, the GR Supra, which is completely new to you this year. How is that? How did it feel to be behind a new car for one, but a Supra as well?
Yeah, so the Toyota Gazoo Racing GR Supra that I campaigned this year in 2020 was obviously built at Gritty Performance, which is in Irvine, California, and Gritty has been my team, my go-to team, my main team for the past 8-9 years now. We started in 2012 with at the time it was called the Scion FRS. The Scion branding is no more, but today it's called the Toyota 86. So we campaigned that for 8 years, and moving on to 2020, in December of 2019, Toyota said, hey, we want you to, take hold of the new GR Supra and build it and campaign it for the next following season. So it was actually my very first time taking on a huge project to build the car from scratch, from the ground. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. I think I have just as much fun building a car now as I do driving and competing in the car, because now I understand, wow, okay, so my team went through hell to build me a car that was mega competitive, and to go through that same motion and build a car to make it competitive, I just started to appreciate that a lot more, the craft of building that car. So it was a really, really good experience, I think, personally, for me to be there every day, stitch welding the chassis, removing all the unnecessary components, building the engine, and then working with my partners like Blue Moon, BC, Achilles, WinMax, and all the brands like Rays, to see that relationship build, and to see that they're not just dumping parts, they're actually investing, a part of them into our program. So as a team owner, it made me realize and appreciate that much more how much goes into, building a car and having a prepared car go into Formula Drift competition.
Yeah. So you're very much
that
like
was huge.
Yeah, so you're very much like, because, you get some managers who will they'll kind of go straight into management and they'll look over everything. Well, they'll kind of watch over. But you're the kind of person who will learn each and every stage. I take it. You sound like the kind of person who, you don't want to just do the racing. You want to get involved in everything. And learn as you go.
Yeah, and then Sung, last time we talked, you said you were forever a student. I think I completely agree. I am forever a student too. Yeah. And, there's always something to learn, always.
Yeah.
And, that's one thing that I learned this year was just how much goes into a Formula Drift team and all that effort. Yeah. So that's one thing that's going on. And then amidst the whole COVID lockdown situation, myself and two other buddies of mine decided to open up a shop in Temple City, California. So this is actually where I store my race car, my tools, my machinery. And so I kind of took advantage of that and used the space to also build, one of my toys, like IS300. We wrapped that. We did a couple huge projects and modifications to that car. And then now we're building a GS300. So a lot of it, revolves around Toyota products, Lexus, Toyota. But it's been pretty fun. I mean, trying to have the space finally to do what I want freely has been a huge addition to my life.
Yeah. Nice. Sung, what was it like being behind, in the passenger seat with Ken going for it?
Ken? This was my second time in a drift car, and the first time was with Ken like 5-6 years ago.
Seattle.
At the same place. Oh,
was it Irwindale? Yeah, it was in Seattle.
Irwindale. Yeah. No, it was in Irwindale.
You were there, Irwindale.
But I didn't go. I left really quick, and then in Seattle, I did the ride along with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first time was with Ken in Seattle, and the second time was with Ken. And yeah, I kind of. I mean, this is a compliment to his driving. He's so smooth that I feel so safe. I start feeling sleepy. Actually, I start nodding off. Like when I take off in an airplane is when I fall asleep. I always fall asleep. Right? It's my favorite moment when Ken's drifting. It's like that the G-force, the inertia, it kind of rocks me to sleep. And I was recording it. But somehow I lost the video. But it's always relaxing. I don't feel scared in Ken's hand. So
that's so funny.
He's a pro. He's a veteran. So it was really fun.
Yeah.
Not bad. That was awesome. I thought I was gonna eat it. I was so out of tire on that one. I swear to God, I thought I was gonna hit the wall. That was so cool.
So,
And you can
cool.
tell he was like kind of getting sleepy. Like
that's fantastic. So Sung doesn't know this, but I really want Sung to get back like properly into drifting. I want him to build a drift car. What 5 steps, or what's the, yeah, I know. What steps? Can you imagine the fans' faces?
you're telling me Han doesn't know how to drift?
I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know how to
See,
drift.
This is
I'm
a
an
viral
actor,
video
man.
waiting to happen.
Han knows how to drift. Son Kang does not know how to drift. I will never take claim that I know how to drift. First and foremost is that I will never take that claim because there's so many of you guys out there that work on these movies, professional drifters, that come and risk their lives, and they deserve all the credit. I mean, we have pros. The beauty of Hollywood is they have money and they can pay for the best. So you got to bring the best drivers to get those, awesome stunts on screen. So no, I don't know how to drift because first of all, I gotta come home, man. I got responsibilities, and my wife is not about to let me go to some drift event and go crazy and become Han in real life. So, but I do respect it. I would like to actually, really focus on autocross right now and some track racing just to get, more gentleman driving, just to get the fundamentals and the whole community. And I don't know. I don't think all the fans want me to grow out my hair and get in a FD drift car and, and drift around some girls. You never know. But Ken might. Me and Ken might be able to do it. You never know, right?
So
we should actually, honestly, we should set up a day where we go to the track together, and then I can teach you some of the basics. And the reason why I say that is because I think knowing the basics and the fundamentals of car control will definitely 100% help you on the track.
Absolutely.
Recovery
I'm all
time.
about learning. I'd be honored if you could. If I could have a proper teacher, start with the fundamentals. And
you have my number. I mean, you can call me anytime.
Awesome. I need to be in the backseat for this.
You got to make it over the pond and join us.
I bring the IS, and if it hasn't rusted out by that point, it'll be great. So I mean, Let's say Sung has. We've got a private car park, no walls whatsoever. We've got cones. What are the 3 things you're going to be teaching him?
The most important thing is where you're looking, right? So your focal point. So as we start doing donuts, which is obviously the basic first step, I'm going to tell him, hey, Sung, there's a cone in the middle. We're going to do donuts around it. Keep your eye on the cone. That way he can stay consistently in that same radius and practice and actually feel the car relative to what he's looking at. And I'll tell him, okay, now look away from the cone. And as he does that, he'll notice, some changes within the characteristics of what's happening and whatnot. So basic fundamentals is keep your eyes where you want to go, right? So focal point is really important. Some of the things I teach when I teach is look where you want to go, not where you don't want to go. And then we can move on to figure 8. So the same basic concept of doing donuts, except now at this time, you're shifting your focal point to another point on the track. And that could be, a couple car lanes ahead. And then we'll try to do that in the same thing, but in the other direction. So that's a figure 8. And then we can move on to...
Hey, Alex, I like how he just went to, an advanced, stage 8. He's like, oh, so we're going to start doing donuts. How about... Where does he go in the car?
Manual transmission.
Where's the seatbelt, man? Hey, how do you get this helmet? I can't see nothing.
This opens up.
You're right.
Let me tell you a hilarious story. So I got this helmet. And so it was a gift. I get this helmet, and I'm sitting next to my friend and going, hey man, I can't see through this helmet. This helmet is no good. I think I have to give it back. Sparko was nice enough to give me this helmet, but I was like, yo, I can't see anything. I had it on, And my friend goes, "You're such a moron, dude." I go, "Why?" He goes, "You have the sticker on the visor." So we need to back up, Ken. Back
Okay.
up to
You're right.
we are
You're right.
entering the racetrack. Where do I park my car? I'm lost. I gotta go
Shit.
pee first.
You gotta put
Oh,
air
you're
in these
right. I
tires.
should've
What?
mentioned
Come
something.
on, man. He's already. Then we go to the figure eights. That's where we're gonna go. We're gonna go to figure eights. What are you talking about? Back up.
You're right. You're right. I'll come
Okay,
up with a
alright.
curriculum for beginners.
Car key, air in tires, sticker off helmet. Done.
I'm not even a white belt. I don't even have the uniform. I'm taking the free class, and I get the uniform for free. That's what I'm coming to do. Like, all right, it's like a 10-minute. Yeah.
Okay, maybe let's swap.
People assume because I play this guy, I can do what Ken does. It doesn't make sense, man. You know what I mean? I'm an actor. It's all right here. All right. Anyway, all right. Let's back up.
Okay,
Let's go to the fundamentals of drifting. What is drifting? Like, if you were to talk to my mother, and she goes, "Muragu, drifting? What do you mean a drifting? Why you want to tear the tire? You spend the money you throw away, you sickie, you. Who you think you are? You know how long it takes to buy tire? What is drifting? Explain to my mother why you need to drift.
And my granddad. Why are they going through so many tires?
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, we're trying to make these cars do something they weren't designed to do, right? We're trying to make them do something where normal people wouldn't want to do. So we're trying to make the car go completely pitched sideways, tire screeching, looks like losing control. But who said it? It was I think Bow Wow said it, right? In the movie, he said, if you think you're in control, or if you're not out of control, you're not in control or something. So we're trying to control a car that's out of control. Why? Because it just feels good. It's just that adrenaline rush you get while you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. And that's relatable to something outside of drifting too. When you're doing something your parents tell you not to do, like your grandma tells you, your omani tells you don't do that, right? And you do it, you're like, oh, that was kind of cool. Like I felt like a rebel. That's what drifting is. It's something that's rebellious to other forms of motorsports. It's not traditional. It wasn't made to be done, but we're here we are doing it anyways because it just feels so cool. I think that's all it is. Like while we're going sideways right next to a wall and then we scrape the wall, we're like, oh my God, that was so cool because it's just not normal.
Yeah. Is it better than sex?
Don't ruin this for me.
I'm a virgin. Is it better than the morning poo that you have that releases all?
Ooh.
Right?
Welcome to the Sun's Garage podcast, everybody.
I guess that depends on what you ate the night before.
I mean, when you say cool, it's so general. What is cool? Like, like some guys get off on catching a fish, right? Like for you,
right.
on the drifter, that's your sweet spot. That's where you feel right. Huh?
I think because while we're drifting, we're constantly on that edge. At least the way we drift competitively, we're on that edge of making it look super badass, or completely annihilating the car, wrecking that car, and that line is so thin, and we're riding that fine line of a badass run or a complete annihilation of your brand new GR Supra. And I think pulling off that clean run is the highest of the high adrenaline rush. Like, oh my God, that made me suck in the seat cushion, kind of scary.
Controlled chaos, pretty much.
Yes, controlled chaos,
yeah. I go into the drift events. The blessing with COVID was that there wasn't so many people. It wasn't crowded, so I could go and basically meet every single driver because it was just the drivers out there and their teams. And I loved it, man. It was like the community really spoke to me. You guys are so tight. But the criticism I have of this sport is that you guys don't have any bad guys. You guys, it needs to be like WWE where there's the good guys, like your Ken Gushi, you could be the good guy, you know, the nice, innocent guy. And then there needs to be people like the villain, you know, like I could play like Black.
Like DK?
And then it could be like Black Death Oil. Like I spurt oil, I cheat and I spurt oil in front of you. Drift you out of control. You know, right? And there needs to be more drama. You guys are so nice, man. WWF, that's my suggestion. That's my contribution to the pot. All right?
You're absolutely right. And you're not the first person to say that, actually. I mean, there's been multiple people that I spoke to telling me, like, hey, man, like, how come, like, who do you hate? Like, who is your least favorite driver? Or, like, who do you not want to go up against? I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, who do I hate? I don't really hate anyone. Like, there's no one on track where I would hold any sort of grudge against. And even if, like, sometimes, you know, we get cheated out of the run or something and we lose, of course we're going to be upset at the moment, but then the next time we see each other, we're like, hey, man, what's up, dude? Like, how's your son? How's your wife? But then I go to, like, these NASCAR events, and these drivers are throwing fists at each other. They're, like, knocking each other out and throwing helmets through the driver's windows.
Is that show? Is that for optics or is it real? You think that's...
I think some of it is for show, but when
that's what I'm saying. I think Formula Drift needs to put a little bit more show business, man.
You're right.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Ken. If you were a bad, evil Formula Drift driver character, what would your name be? And same question for you, Alex.
Oh, man.
Ken the Annihilator Gushi, because I would honestly take everyone out in front of me.
Oh.
I didn't get in trouble for it.
Just wiping people out.
You're going to win? Nope, sorry, there goes the wall.
Ken
I played Mario
the
Kart.
Annihilator. Nice. All right.
Some red shells at them.
That's a good name. What about you, Alex?
It'd be Alex, you can't drive with no engine oil, Harrington.
Oh, that's dirty.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
That's
not only is it no oil in the engine, but there's oil under them tyres.
Oh.
I would never do such a thing. No. Who would be the bad guy? Obviously, we're being very friendly here. We don't actually mean anything in a horrible way. But who would you? Okay, let me rephrase it. Who would you love to be the bad guy?
That's a good question. I always thought like the quietest ones are usually the sneakiest, you know, the dirtiest ones. Like they're constantly thinking of ways to just screw other drivers. Or the ones that sit in the back of the class are usually the bad ones, right? They're constantly thinking of ways to sabotage the weekend project so there's no homework throughout the weekend.
Yeah.
Funny enough, so there's one, two. This year there were 4 Japanese drivers, but there's been years where there's, you know, less drivers or more Japanese drivers. But the funny thing is, and even Jared Deanda, the commentator for Formula D, says it too, he calls the back corner the J corner. And only because all the Japanese drivers, we congregate to the back corner and we all sit in this one corner. For some odd reason, it's been like that since forever. So Daijiro, myself, even, you know, Taguchi, Daigo and Robbie, when they were here, we would all sit in the back corner, the J corner, and we would just talk amongst ourselves. And then, like, everyone else was just doing their own thing. So you never know. Us Japanese drivers might have something up our sleeves that might sabotage the rest of the field. We're not just speaking Japanese for the sake of it. We're plotting up a little sneak attack.
I like it. So quickly swapping the roles. You know, Sung said he didn't want to He doesn't want to start drifting. Leave that to the professionals. Have you stepped into the Faguzi yet? Have you driven the Faguzi?
I have been in it, and Sung wasn't driving, unfortunately. But Kenji, who the president of Great Performance,
Yeah.
as the car was finished, he said, "Hey, get in real quick." I'm like, oh my god, I want to get in. He's like, "Oh, you want to drive?" I'm like, oh no. Like, I am not driving a car right before it's about to make its maiden voyage debut at SEMA. I'm like, oh no, it's okay. Kenji, you drive it, and if something happens, I'm on my hands. Or that wasn't me. So then he drives me around the block, and at the time it was a NA built RB26. So just the sound of when he opened throttle, just like open throttle intake, just the pure NA sound was mind blowing. Till this day it gives me chills thinking about what that car sounded like on that day, the first time I sat in it. So I'll be honest, Sung. I mean, when you guys announced that you guys are going turbo, I was a little sad because I just was purely hooked on that NA sound. But I'm sure the Fuguzi Part 2 is going to be greater than ever.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
I know. We got it, but life is about evolving, for me.
Absolutely.
So
Hell yeah.
it was a tough decision because it's easy to keep something the same and say that, that's the best it can be. But I feel like the great thing about our community and, the car industry is that it's innovation. There's constant innovation. And what I like, from what I knew about cars when the Faguzi was first being built to what I know now isn't much, but I felt like I could apply it to, the new version of the Faguzi, right? And so, and I'm excited. It's exciting to, you never get to do something for the first time again. It's very rare. You built the car, but now we get to make it back to the way it was supposed to be, twin turbo, right? I mean, that was how it was originally designed. And as I get older, I kind of am more romantic to history and legacy, and into tradition. And I like the way things were originally designed and to be able to enhance it, but not strip it away. You know what I mean? And I feel like making it NA was a great exploration and exercise for Kenji's artistry and mastery. Right, but I never even drove a L24, right? I didn't even understand the stock, 240Z. So it's like what you were talking about. It's like, because I play Han, Kenji sticks me into a master class where I got to be in the waiting room, man. I should be in the locker room. Yeah, sure. And so I feel like RB26 is a nice, step back or forwards for me to go to what the original, that the GTR RB26 engine was supposed to design as, and then be a student of that, and then understand why when someone like you talks about the NA, it's so glorious, because I was kind of born into that, so I don't know the difference. I can't compare why that's so much. It's so glorious compared to the twin turbo. So I have no point of reference.
I guess that's the beauty of the car community, right? It's like you can learn to appreciate different things. There's turbo, there's NA, there's different kinds of engines and sounds, and then you can appreciate the sound aspect or the power aspect, or even just the build and the quality. So I think it's great. Yeah, like you said, the progress is important and crucial.
Yeah,
but a lot of people.
Go ahead.
A lot of people were saying, with the new Supra, it's got the BMW underpinnings, and people are like, oh, it's not a 2JZ. But, BMW, their straight sixes it's like an evolution of the 2JZ. And you get a lot of people who, unfortunately, they love the Supra, and, it doesn't look like the old Supra, the new one, but I mean, these engines are so incredible now. People, I think there's you get these fans, and some people are blocked to innovation, but I think what's so good about the car community is that because there's all these Facebook groups and Facebook pages, and there's so much of a community, especially these days with the internet, there's so much education available now that you can learn so much even without driving these cars. I mean, how do you feel about the What's your engine like? What is the engine in the Supra? Because it's the B58, right?
Yeah, correct. So
Yeah.
just a quick rundown of what our GR Supra is built on. It's, like you said, it is the B58 platform, built by my engine builder sponsor, Blue Moon Performance, using Run BC, which is a globally known, engine parts manufacturer out of San Diego, California. And then our headwork is done by SuperTech Performance. So we're using the best in the industry, only because, for one, we didn't know what this engine was capable of. We didn't know where its weaklings were, so we said, hey, you guys are the pros. You guys build the parts. I'm just going to build it together and run it. So, like the 2JZ, it's been, 20 years, more than 20 years since that engine platform came out. And it took a while for people to start realizing, oh, my God, that heavy iron block engine makes a ton of power reliably. But it took years. But here we are with this B58 in year one, making 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to see how, what it took the 2JZ compared to what it took the B58 to make that similar power figure.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's all because of technology, newer resources, newer material, metals, and of course, how fast data goes across the globe from, let's say, BMW to Toyota to the engineers to these parts manufacturers like Run BC and SuperTech. So, anyway, going back to my engine spec, it's got 800 horsepower. We're using a Borg-Warner EFR turbo, an 8474. Fully built engine, of course. Rods, pistons, crank by BC. The head is fully built. But it is complicated. The engine is complicated. I will admit, when I took off the valve cover, I was like, I'm just going to put the valve cover back on and let you guys work on it. Yeah.
Man, because, it's turbocharged. You don't run nitrous.
We do run nitrous.
You do run nitrous?
Yes.
I was going to say, okay.
Yeah, but only on the bottom end to spool up the turbo. And once it hits 22 pounds of boost at maybe 4,000 RPM, it shuts off. So it's just low end, just to pick it up, and then it's all boost from there.
Yeah, damn.
And you have sequential transmission on that.
Yep.
Which has been the sticking factor for that Supra, that it did not come in a manual option.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of the guys or the purists just kind of poo-pooed on the car because it didn't give that option. I mean, now that you swap that over to sequential transmission, do you wish that Supra came out, or are they coming out with a manual option Supra soon because of
I wish I could say yes, but I don't know, and I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I think they might do on the 2-liter. I'm not sure they will on the more powerful car.
Right, it would make sense with the 2-liter. I mean, that's probably more of the driver's engaging car. Right? I would love it.
Do we need it? But do you need it? Would you like that? Do you think
I would love
elimination?
it? Yeah, I would love it, absolutely. Because I'm a driver's car kind of guy, so I like to have full control of what the car is doing. I like to be able to step on the clutch pedal, slam it into gear, and shift whenever I want, not when the computer wants.
Yeah. Well, there you go, Toyota. Come on, guys.
Hold on.
I said, come on, Toyota, let's do it. Heard it from the horse's mouth. Let's manual Supra right here. I don't mind testing it out for you.
Absolutely. I will say, though, that the automatic transmission in the Supra is mega high-tech.
Yeah.
The shift speeds are blistering fast. And I got to admit, I mean, if it was a drag race manual versus this automatic, the automatic would smoke the manual transmission.
Yeah.
Easy. And they're just so far advanced, and they're just super lightning fast shifting speeds. So for an everyday driver's car, it's a no-brainer. The automatic will take the win. But for someone that's different like me, I think, please, Toyota, please.
No, I get it. I've got two cars. I've got the IS200, which is the rusting manual bucket out front of the house. But I've moved over to. I've always had manual cars, but I moved over to an Audi, and I've always been kind of similar. I don't need an automatic. I'll be fine. I can use a clutch. I can drive a manual just fine. Then I got in an auto, and I thought, oh my god, this is so much easier. Like you just, it is that thing where you go, you know, I'm gonna be macho and I'm gonna, you know, prove to the world that you can still that you can still drive a manual. I don't care anymore. I just want the car to be nice. So I think all this competitiveness between manual, especially with newer cars, where you're right, the automatic is the higher performing car. In these, you know, especially in these sports cars, maybe not necessarily the CVT autos and that kind of stuff, but you know, for performance, which is what these manufacturers are going for, especially with the whole numbers race, and they want the 0 to 60 times, but also the economy. You need to have the automatic, and that, you know, I think we've just got to get used to it, unfortunately. But a 2 litre manual would be nice. That'd be cool.
A 3 liter manual would be even better.
I mean, yeah, if they could do it, that would be really very nice. No, it's interesting though. A lot of people, you know, quite a few people I've seen have complained about the new Supra because it's an automatic, because they use BMW parts. But then you look back, you know, they compare it to the old Supra. But then you look back at the old magazines and the reviews that the journalists have written about the old Supra, and they're really bad. You know, they're like, oh, it's too heavy, it's not fast enough, it doesn't compete with its competitors. But I think just like the old Supra, if you give it time, people will just warm. You know, people will warm to it. They'll grow up to it. They grow up with it, especially the younger car enthusiasts out there. I think the car's just got to have room to breathe. You know, I think people are warm to it, and you know, a lot of people love it anyway. So,
Yeah.
but
I saw one drive by down the road the other day. Man, it looks
so good.
It's a beautiful looking car. You can't deny that.
Yeah,
it is
definitely.
A hot looking car. Yeah.
Definitely.
They sound good too.
Yeah.
Straight from the dealership.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So we put out some questions, we put out a post on Facebook, Songs Garage, by the way. Hit it up. Asking for people to submit their questions to Ken. And we got so many questions. I'm actually going to refresh the page because we've got 4.1 thousand likes. People are loving the Supra. We got 96 comments, which is huge. So, if you will, I've got some questions. So, Alex Samosky Jr., that's a brilliant name, he asks, what is your favourite front-wheel drive car to daily and to track?
Oh, well, first of all, thanks for all your participating questions. That's very generous of you guys to be curious about what I am and who I am. But back to the question, what is my favorite front-wheel drive to daily and
to track?
Go to the track? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't really spend much time driving front-wheel drive.
But, damn.
I'm just kidding. I will say I haven't spent much time driving a front-wheel drive on the track. Not saying that I don't like them or anything. I just never had that opportunity, right? Never had the chance. But with that said, I mean, you know, front-wheel drives are a lot of fun. Doing some spirited driving in the canyons and whatnot. But I have a bunch of friends, and even the president of Gritty Performance, Kenji, he is a huge Honda guy, specifically old school Honda. So he built a turbocharged EF Honda Civic hatchback and put all this like new modern technology into that build. So being around that for so long, especially this past year, while I was building my GR Supra, I learned to appreciate what goes on to a lot of Hondas and front-wheel drive. So, I mean, I wouldn't have a specific vehicle that I would choose to daily and take to the track, but if I could, I would definitely take Kenji's Civic out for a spin, just because I know what went into it, and he spent hours and hours meticulously choosing even what kind of bolts to put into that car. So, I mean, if there's one car that's been done right as a front-wheel drive, it's definitely Kenji's Civic.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
I drove that car. It's a masterpiece, man.
Yeah,
Masterpiece.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean Hondas, you know, they're known to get their front-wheel drive set up right from the factory. I can't imagine what it'd be like once Kenji gets his hand on one.
Right. I mean, like you said, you know, Honda knows how to build cars. They are a racing team that sells cars.
Yeah.
A racing company that sells cars. So
Yeah.
they know what they're doing.
So the next question from Margaret Silver, do you feel afraid when you're drifting?
I do not. I feel more afraid before I get in the car, only because I'm scared that I might not be able to push myself to the limits. I'm never scared of crashing, or at least I don't think about it. Maybe if I even gave it a thought, I would be like, oh, that kind of sounds scary. But no, I don't think about it. And I think as a driver, you shouldn't ever think about being scared to crash.
Yeah.
Because then you won't be able to push yourself.
Yeah.
Every time you get behind the wheel, you're going to be like, oh my God, what if I crash? What if I crash? And that's the end of your career.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, you've got to give it 100%, and fear can pull you back from that. So Melissa Ramsey Smalley, she asks, what age did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Also, just from me, what experience did you have that, like, what was your first drifting experience? What was it that made you go, you know what, this is it?
Yeah, so my dad had a 1986 Toyota Corolla, or A86 GTS, and on the way home from Mitsuwa Market, which is a local Japanese market down the street from our old place, he took this one corner, and it was raining, and he said, hey, hold on real quick. I was like, by the time I realized what he was doing, the car was completely sideways in that corner. I was like, oh my God, that was so cool. And he's just giggling. I'm like, do it again. He's like, no, we can't do it. Let's go home. So then he took me to a dry lake bed called El Mirage Dry Lake Bed. It's about an hour and a half north of LA County. And it's just this huge wide open land in the middle of the California desert. And he's like, hey man, like, hop in and just drive, do whatever you want. And I got on the driver's seat, started doing donuts and just driving around the bushes, taking some jumps. I knew at that moment that I just wanted to drive. I didn't necessarily think I wanted to be a professional, but I knew that I wanted to drive. I loved driving. I loved what the car can do. I loved how I can make it do certain things. And so I knew at a relatively early age, I'd say 8 or 9.
Yeah, and would you say you're a natural? Would you say driving came quite easy to you?
I feel like it did. I mean, I don't think I ever struggled to, or I was never frustrated in the learning process, or at least from what I remember. But that also comes because I started at an early age, and this was way before drifting was popular in the States. So, just a little bit of a spin or a donut or J-turn was like, woohoo, I did it, that was a huge drift, when it was only like a little J-turn. So.
Yeah. Ken, that's like out of a movie. It's a scene out of a movie. If I were to create a scene of how Han learned how to drift, there's a scene with his dad in the AE86 Corolla. Wow, do it again, Dad. Shh, don't tell Mom.
That's how it was.
That's awesome.
So we're coming to the end of 2020. What is coming 2021? What have you got on the horizon?
Now that I have a fully built GR Supra, what I'm hoping for, number one, is for everything to go back to normal, and for COVID to go away and everyone to kind of move on with their lives away. So then we can provide an even better show where spectators can freely roam the pits and open, cockpit and area, and we can start to socialize again like normal human beings. But until then, we're just going to, make some progress on the Supra, make it more competitive, take some weight out of it, make some changes to make it a little bit more competitive. I feel like 2020 was not the ideal year to debut a new car, only because obviously, for one, spectators weren't allowed to come into the venue. Yeah. And two, everything was just condensed into 4 weekends, 8 rounds of competition. So, just looking forward to a normal, civilized life again. And then,
on that note, I just want to thank you for what you and what your team and what the guys at Formula Drift did, to put together a year of some seriously good drifting in the environment that you guys have been given. I mean, it deserves a round of applause, really. Like, it's crazy that you managed to give that experience to us viewers through a screen. you know, it was amazing, and you know, just a massive thank you to you and your team and the guys at Formula Drift.
Thank you. I
There you
appreciate
go.
Formula
that.
Drift.
Yep,
Yeah,
there it is.
thank you. Yes.
Those
Thank
guys
you.
have definitely put in some work to make sure we had a season this year, because when the whole thing crashed back in March or even February, and they were like, oh, we don't even know if it's going to happen, and then it was a couple weeks before Long Beach, and they're like, ooh, okay, Long Beach Grand Prix is canceled, and then the Australian Grand Prix was canceled when they were already there at Formula One. So seeing everything happen right in front of our eyes was pretty wild. So from that to actually, salvaging everything and having a proper 8-round series was just like, wow, okay, you guys deserve a huge round of applause.
Yeah.
So mad props to and the whole staff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, thank you so much for spending some time with us doing this. I've as a fan, I've learned so much. I feel so honoured to talk to you. So thank you so much for that. What do you have things to plug? Because we've got a fan base, and they will click. What's your Instagram and Twitter and YouTube? How can people find you?
Yeah, well, if you guys want to follow what I do, my everyday antics, my Instagram handle is @Ken Gushi. It's just one word. And then my YouTube, although it's not really up to date yet, but we are starting to create a little bit more content, is Ken Gushi Motorsports. So if you guys want to follow our adventures and kind of see what we do here, go ahead and give us a follow. But more than anything, I just want to say thank you to you guys, Alex and Son, for giving the viewers and even myself a platform to share our passion and to be relatable to everyone else. Because I think one thing that's great about Formula Drift is that we're easily accessible to our fans and our fan base, where other forms of motorsports it's not so easy. But if we have resources like you guys, I think everyone else can be a little bit more connected, and they feel like they're closer to us as human beings. So great what you guys do. Huge props to Sun's Garage, to you, Alex and Sun, for building this foundation for everyone to enjoy.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You.
It's been good so far.
Yeah, and it's easy to it's easy to support people like you, because you're beloved in the community. Everyone that meets you loves you, and they have the utmost respect for you. So it's been an honor to get to know you and get to know you better today, and share your origin and your passion. And you don't cease to amaze me, because you are a wonderful role model. So I wish you great success next year, man.
Thank you so much.
You have a lot of people in your corner.
Yeah. Just so before we go, I do need to do our self-plugging bit, and I hate doing this because it feels so awful to plug ourselves. But you can find us online at sungsgarage.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Stitcher, and whatever. We're on everything. We will be on everything. And subscribe to the Sun's Garage YouTube channel. And yeah, such a massive thank you to Ken for hanging out today. It's been so much fun.
Appreciate it.
We shall see you soon.